Here to discuss politics of it all, welcome co-host of Sway in the Morning, political commentator, Mike Muse. Welcome to the Black Report, Mike Muse.
Thank you. It's happy to be here. And also the Mike Muse Show on SiriusXM on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys check it out. Now, Black leaders are declining to meet with the Trump administration for a listening session meeting. Do you think they should show up? And who was he expecting to do the listening? And who was expected to do the talking?
I don't know. I think that's an interesting question, whether or not Black leaders choose to show up or not. I think what's most important as we begin to call for Black leadership, or as we begin to call for a Black celebrity to be the lead during this very dynamic time of COVID-19, and also too with the injustice that we're seeing with Black individuals being murdered at the hands of the police. Black people are not monolithic. And I think if we state that all the time, and particularly when it comes to political discourse, and particularly when we want our politicians to understand who we always say that we're not monolithic. So we're not monolithic, then there shouldn't be one Black unifier that can bring us all together, where we should have individuals who represents different aspects of ideology, of Black culture, Black identity, Black economics, to be able to come forward and all have a voice within this matter. Because when we ask about the Black agenda, it could be very vast, right? And so we want to make sure that specific in our ask. And also too, when it comes to the quote unquote Black leader, that is so undefined because there's so many great individuals who have fantastic voices who are doing phenomenal things. The issue is they choose to accept or choose to decline comes to a matter of personal choice. But President Trump has shown over the years that he has an incredible distrust within the Black community. Black community just does not trust President Trump.
Exactly.
The last 3 to 4 years have not done anything actively to make sure that the Black community is on the same page with him. He always talks about make America great again, the MACA concept, but we don't see we disagree with that narrative altogether, again, because of the historical context of, again, we're asking what period of America is great and what's great do you want to return to? So that in and of itself creates this PTSD, traumatic effect dynamic issue that we have. And he hasn't worked hard to earn the respect and the transparency and the comfortability that he is going to work on our behalf from an authentic place, not from a social media moment, not from a narrative when he brings reality stars or individuals into the White House and parades them for a photo op, but then we never see any actual real tangible results. So there's a track record of distrust. There's a track record of not anything being tangible. There's a track record of not having strong policies that all of us can unite around and unify and feel comfortable around when it comes to that.
Now, we all know you've worked with the Obama administration, and now we're here, post-Obama era. How much of an impact do you think Obama will have on the 2020 election and our current racial climate?
I think that's two-part. I'll take that question with regards to that. Pre-COVID-19, the incredible injustice that we're seeing with the murders that have been consistent over the last month, if you will, I would say that any typical president, former president of a political party, doesn't start to come out for a campaign season until the Democratic nominee is either the presumptive nominee or until they are the official nominee of their party. And that goes for both Republican and it goes for Democrat. So we weren't really anticipating seeing President Obama come out much until Joe Biden became the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party. Now that we see Joe Biden's presumptive nominee, he's going to come out a lot more now because now we're in high campaign season when it comes to the summertime. When it comes to racial inequities and injustice that we're seeing by the hands of the police, President Obama, during his administration, had to do a lot of conversations and speeches around race relations. He was the leader, if you will, of empathy. He was
he was.
Of racial whisperers, if you will, right? He had a way to really explain to the nation what was happening, what was the underbelly, what was the anger about, what was the emotion about. If you recall the speech he did in South Carolina when he eulogized those individuals, he sang Amazing Grace. If you recall the speech that he gave from the White House and he talked about the unfortunate passing of Trayvon Martin, and he said that if I had a son, he would look just like Trayvon. And so he's always been able to communicate to America the dynamic of race relations. we're living in unprecedented times, CC, so no one knows what the role of a former president is, and no one knows in this time period what the role of the former first Black president is, in particular when we're in campaign season. We need the Democrats, well, let me say the Democrats need the presumptive nominee, Joe Biden, in order to win the votes of the Black community, to show leadership on this effort. And so does he allow Joe Biden that lane to go through forcefully and show what Joe Biden can do with regards to that? Does he come with the assist? Does he take the lead at all? No one can really answer that right now. And I best believe, CC, that President Obama is probably right now trying to wrestle with that strategy himself in terms of how much does he take the lead when it comes to this.
Okay, so let me just go back to saying that when it comes to President Barack Obama, you're right, Mike, he was the president of empathy. And I think that it is important for us, for him to come out and speak more, because I don't know about you, but every time I hear Obama speak, it makes sense and it calms me down.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Like, it just makes me feel at peace that we have like a strong leader voicing.
Yeah, I think you wouldn't be alone, CC. I think he makes all of us feel that way. I think he makes a lot of Americans feel that way. But again, this is such unprecedented times. Whose role is that right now? We're in campaign season for the next president of the United States of America. Is that responsibility now? Does it fall on Joe Biden for him to take the lead? Does it fall on President Obama to take the lead when it comes to that? And so I think when we remove the emotion and we remove the want of President Obama, we then have to think about, we are in a high season of the presidential election cycle. And so what happens now?
Yeah. So, New York's popular and trendy Soho community was vandalized and looted this weekend. You were there and you noticed something interesting about the Nike store. Can you please share that with us?
Yeah, I want to be clear. I wasn't there during the night you saw the uprisings in Soho. I live in the neighborhood, and so the next morning I heard the helicopters overhead, and I couldn't sleep, both is because these race relations and race issues are heavy on my mind and heavy on my heart. And then also too, just physically couldn't sleep because of the noise. And so when I got up the next morning just to assess the damage, I went walking around and went taking pictures of what the results of the night before was, right? So I wanted to know what that morning after was. I wanted to know what was I feeling the morning after. It's one thing to watch it on television and to see the aftermath on television, but I wanted to experience it firsthand and see what it was. And so I was taking pictures, and a lot of the major stores and boutiques and art galleries within that makes Soho so popular had all been, windows were busted, things out of the facility. We were all taking pictures, So then I went and turned the corner and I was like, let me see what happened with Nike. So I'm curious about, did Nike have any broken windows? Was there merchandise taken from Nike? And when I turned the corner, CC, I noticed that there wasn't no window shattered from Nike. And I thought that was really interesting because every other popular store in Soho had damage to it. And I said, well, maybe there was no merchandise or the lights must have been dark with the Nike. So let me take a look inside of it and see. And I saw that, Nike had a full merchandise racks full of clothes. So then I'm an engineer by degree, CC. So I said, then my engineering mind clicked. I said,
right.
The break point, the material, the glass, maybe they're using some type of glass that prevents, things to be broken at a low velocity and trajectory. And then in that moment, I was taking pictures. One of the employees of Nike, it was two guys, two people of color. One was a Black guy. One was a person of color who I couldn't tell the makeup. That individual comes over to me and he tells me that you have to, leave. I'm like, why do I have to leave? Because I'm on the sidewalk, right? This is
exactly.
And he says, but you can't take any pictures. I was like, what do you mean I can't take any pictures? He said, it's a new policy now. I said, what policy? What law? And he said, it just is. So you had to move and you had to stop taking pictures. But Cece, what was happening around me was all these other white people were taking pictures, right?
Oh, but you're the one that they pointed out.
Yeah, and now there's a particular white couple. They were like on their knees. They had their fancy camera. I had just a basic cell phone camera, and they were getting the angles and adjusting their lens. And he said nothing to them. And in that moment, all the feelings came to me, right? I'm already raw of emotions from what was happening. And then here I am with this microaggression with people of authority, because sometimes we lose sight of the fact that this is a police issue, yes, but it's an authority issue too as well. And when people have authority, the microaggression that is caused towards Black individuals is a constant. And so I went from this whole notion of microaggression. Why would you single me out of all the other white people here that are taking pictures too as well? And then what was also most hurtful was that the Black Nike store employee said nothing to the individual to tell him to relax, to cool down, because he could see now that I'm becoming agitated. I'm becoming
right. You know what? And I totally understand where you're coming from. It happens a lot to our Black and brown men. And Mike, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on the Black Report. I want you to know, Mike Muse, that you are welcome here anytime.
Oh, thank you so much, Cece. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.